We have done environmental studies on the site, yes.
We didn't already filed it with you?
No, because we're early on in the development process, we haven't gotten there yet. Thank you. We haven't gotten to that stage yet.
My name is Avery King. I've lived here basically my whole life. My grandparents actually owned a scrapyard out by the baseball fields. For many of you in this room, you know them to be Roger and Molly King. I am familiar with scrap and recycling and different things like that. So my question to you, that you keep saying batteries, 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 but what are these batteries actually made of? Are they lithium iron phosphate
They are
batteries?
lithium ion batteries, and then the containers are metal and plastics.
Okay, so my next question is that I actually am familiar with containers too. My family owns a container resale store. A lot of those containers cannot handle that level of heat, and that specific type of battery actually reignites at a lower temperature if it is not created well. And as we've seen with Tesla, which use very similar batteries, that actually locks in people in their vehicles. It actually makes it harder for firefighters to get into a facility or into a vehicle because there's electrical. So it's not just about the spill, it's about what kind of electrical current will start igniting along the side of the container because it is steel. But my question is if you're gonna vent it, what kind of steel containers are you actually building? Are you building them to code for that hazard, or are you building them to code for domestic or export use on a container and just shoving a bunch of batteries inside?
Well, first, these aren't EVs, so these aren't electric vehicles. These are separate energy storage systems, and these enclosures are made per all the standards just for the batteries. They're not made for anything else but the batteries. And they're designed for the batteries per NFPA 855.
Okay, so if you're gonna benefit the ISD, which I'll tell you, the Comfort School District here has a it's very close to my heart, especially after all the hell we've been through the last year with the education system and the fact that you're so close to the high school. I have a freshman there, and my biggest concern is that, people have asked you, how are you gonna, if this thing gets out of a container, how are you gonna contain it? Because reality is, we can test all day long, there's always gonna be a flaw because we're human. There's always gonna be human error. But my question is when that fire or issue comes about, how are our firefighters gonna fight it if they can't get in? Because I'll tell you right now, everybody in this room, if anybody's on Flat Rock Creek Road, I'll tell you, have Comfort to show up and get those people out. And that will cause an issue for the firefighters.
The slide you showed earlier shows different on the way those things are built. You showed the little cells, and it goes to the module into that. But that same process is just like the Teslas. That's how the Tesla cars look whenever they catch on fire inside of them. It's the same.
Well, actually, it's totally different as far as technology and also, as far as standards and regulations. But I'm just, I don't understand who we're trying to save. Like I said, these are non-occupiable, so there's no one there to save.
If my family member is on the other side of Flat Rock Creek
On the
Road,
other side of Flat Rock. So that's where we're going to work with the local first responders and create that emergency response plan.
Yeah.
And that's part of it.
and this is, just give it one more second, I got one more question. If that space does end up getting consumed, we can't use water, there's only a Class D firefighter or fire extinguisher that can be used. Comfort Texas does not have the funds to be able to buy that specific material to turn that fire off permanently. And if it reignites at a lower temperature, that means even with us fighting it, it will still reignite if it's not done correctly, which I will tell you right now, many of my friends are volunteer firefighters. One of our best is a San Antonio firefighter, and they're telling you there's no way you can put that out, water or otherwise. Now, you're looking at Flat Rock Creek Road going across our golf course and then getting to where my child is at the high school and people that I love in the administration of that high school and potentially moving into farmland. That is an uncontrollable issue, that even a 0.0001% is a liability that nobody has said that your company would cover it, because it will kill livestock, it will kill our ground, it will kill our wildlife, it will kill everything in its path. And you guys are leasing the land, so you would not be liable for that. We would. And my question to you is, are you guys going to provide the fire extinguishing system for everybody in that area within a 20-mile radius? Because that's how fast it can spread. Even if you guys take on those regulations and you do everything you can do, it's still human error. And that's what all of us are worried about, is that human error factor, because at the end of the day, our families are the ones that are going to suffer for it. That's it.
Several quick questions. Sorry, I'm trying to. You mentioned that a certain percentage of the energy that Texas produces is lost over a 24-hour period, and then multiply that by a 365-day period. Do you know what percentage is currently being lost? Out of 100% being created in this state, what percentage is being lost?
I don't know a number off the top of my head. But
Okay. Second question, he mentioned that you guys, that part of the game of this is getting tax credits, whether that's federal or state. Are you expecting to get federal, state, or both, besides the abatement for local county?
The federal tax passage that passed recently does provide a tax credit for this specific technology, which we're eligible to receive.
And how much is that?
It's a percentage of the property. What was it? 30%.
30% of the property?
Of the batteries, 30% of the project.
So you're going to get 30% from the state or federal?
Federal.
From federal. How much are you getting from the state?
None.
None. And then you're going to get 45% or 50% from us, and then ranging down, right?
Supposedly, the
Okay.
tax abatement, that's how it's structured.
And then you can't tell us profit that you expect to get. I understand that. But let's do a ballpark figure. Are we talking profit over, not over 20 years, yearly profit? You get this up and running in a year, right? You put, I've seen $80 million. Is that what you're expecting to put into the project? Is that correct? Is that a good figure? Ballpark, okay. And of that $80 million of that project is how much is going to be taxable value? Because some of it's just kind of spent towards labor and stuff like that. How much, not physical fixed assets, obviously, because you're a business, you're leasing it. How much real property value do you expect to pay taxes on to get that initial 50% the first year?
Are you asking for the value of the property the first year?
Yes.
We would have to pull those numbers.
Okay, so of that $80 million, you don't know what percentage of that is actually going to end up being of value and not spent on labor and other things like that? Because you're telling us, you're dangling this carrot saying, hey, we're going to hire these people, we're going to employ these people. Well, that would be your labor costs. So what then, when you take that, and again, is it $80 million project fair? I saw that number. Did everybody else see that number somewhere? Okay, so we're starting at 80, and we're subtracting off labor costs, and that's hopefully going to local tradesmen here to a certain extent, people that provide you materials and stuff like that. Then what is left over that you expect to pay property taxes on? Because you're running these numbers, so you have to have an idea of what that is. You had to have presented it to the county to ask for that abatement to a certain extent so that they could budget to say, hey, this is how much we are not going to receive that we would otherwise receive if this company comes in. This is how much, because it's a loss. Let's use the word. An abatement is a loss of money for our county that they would otherwise get from a business that is doing business in the county. So what is that you expect that first year to pay? So what are you starting at?
To my knowledge, it's the $80 million.
Okay, so of that $80 million, you're telling us that is the actual not fixed assets, but the real property assets.
It would be personal property.
Okay.
Since it's not a facility.
And then you're going to depreciate that not to zero, but over 20 years, you're going to depreciate that to a certain value. But in that depreciation, you're going to be replacing certain number of batteries. So my question is, what is the expectation for replacement? Like if you, let's use 100. If you have 100 batteries on the facility, okay? At what point, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, has every battery been replaced? So you're paying, again, full 100% tax value at it.
That's a technology question. I don't have the answer.
Okay. And that was what I was asking you, like, are you going to be giving that schedule of replacement to the county so that they can assess it and it's not just a pure depreciation? Because you're telling me right now you have to replace it. No matter what battery you decide, but they have to be replaced sometime in that 20 years. Maybe once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times, depending on the battery. And so we should see these tax values going up and down, even if our rate stayed the same. Is that correct? As you...
Yes.
Okay.
I want to step in. All but 3% of that investment is non-taxable. So
Say that again, all but 3% is non-taxable.
So all but 3% of the investment
would be intangible, not something they would put on the property tax rolls. So you're talking 97% of the investment is going to be on the tax rolls.
No, or 97% is going to be on the tax roll. Okay, correct, sorry. The way
And
you
then
said
to
it.
your point, I think what you're asking relates to the average life of the asset before it gets replaced, and I don't know if we know that today, but we could find out.
On average, what is the lifespan? Like, no matter what battery you pick, what's the longest and shortest? You have to
I mean, I will say like a computer, computerized equipment can run anywhere from 5 to 7 years. So they might be replacing something like this every 5 to 7 years.
Okay, so those batteries, again, are gonna be 5 to 7 years old at the oldest.
I mean, I don't know for batteries, I'm just.
Okay, but you have to
like
pay
computer.
value, you have to pay taxes on the value of the battery. So if you replaced it, you've got a new value. And
Yes,
Okay.
right. So to your point, you are correct. Those
Okay.
tax rolls are gonna go like this,
okay,
right? Because you're gonna pull off the depreciated items and replace them with the new items. So yes, that's gonna increase your tax roll. So you're gonna be starting at year 1, right?
right. And so you're
less
expecting
depreciation.
to save.
It's not expense items, they're not capitalized.
They are capitalized.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm still not getting all the numbers. They aren't adding up for me as far as when you say you're only going to save $500,000. Was that the number given for the savings?
So the savings is anywhere from $500,000 to $800,000.
Over 20 years.
And that's a 7-year abatement. Okay.
Okay.
So you're gonna be paying, so over that 7-year, the average is, I think Julie said, 45% abatement. So to the county, you will be paying 55% of the taxes.
Okay. And
Or
then,
they will, I'm sorry, they will pay 55% of the taxes. And then they will be paying 100% of the school tax.
okay, so you're going to receive from our state 30% on the total value of 80 million. You're going to get a 30% like, here, thanks for doing business in Texas. And then you're going to get from us a 50%, hey, thanks for doing business in Kendall County. Is that correct?
Federal. So,
Federal, sorry, I apologize, federal.
So all energy projects across the country are subsidized in one form or another. And this project, being connected to the ERCOT grid, is going to be participating in the ERCOT market and making money that way. And
Okay.
we would be happy to answer some of your
Instead
tax
of an
questions.
abatement, could you guys actually fund things in our county? Like if that were, because we may or may not be able to keep you out. And so instead of us, and this goes to our county commissioners, instead of them getting a tax break, why aren't we asking them to overpay in a sense and put in money for what the systems that we need, those fire systems, those roads, those this, those that, because they're already receiving a very healthy discount from the federal government. And so why not help us capture some of that money? Or why not put in something about the pricing where we have a ceiling for pricing as far as when we do brownouts? If at the last loss of power, or like our last freeze, we were one of 2 counties that they did blackout brownouts in, and that was it. We were one of them. So are you telling us you're going to keep us from having that? Like,
That's the goal of the project,
you know,
yes, to provide reliability.
but do we get first dibs on that?
Yes, so the electricity grid, you receive those benefits here first before it went across the state.
And can we negotiate a fixed price with you yearly so that when we have to flip to that saved power, we all save money? Like,
Sorry, I don't understand the question. We're not charging you guys money on your bill.
sorry. I know, sorry, but I want to understand because
Hi, my name is Tracy Leland. I'm a concerned wife, mom, and property owner in Sisterdale. I just want citizens here to know kind of the timeline of things that happened because I've been paying attention for the past 2 months. I'm so sorry. Sorry, Juliana. Okay. Citizens should know that this company tried to get a reinvestment zone voted through in 2 weeks' time without hosting this community meeting. Please know that. Chad Carpenter in our commissioner's court told them they were postponing the vote until they had this meeting. So I think everyone should be aware of that. The issue at hand with this project has 3 components. Number 1, the tax abatement. We've all talked about it. A tax abatement should be completely off the table. We, the people who have paid county taxes for years with no abatements, do not wish to grant a 7-year period of corporate charity to you. Issue number 2, rapidly changing technology. Currently, ERCOT has no designated expert on these systems, something else everyone should be aware of. The technology for cooling these giant hot batteries is changing, as industry leaders recommend liquid coolants, which are better at stabilizing temps. We all know we don't have the water resources here for that. Key capture uses air conditioning. I want everyone to imagine the sound of 8 acres of air-conditioned batteries running during our 100-degree summers, which can last anywhere from May to September. And then imagine the magnitude of that ironic electrical demand from a facility acting as an energy provider. Issue number 3, the location. We've already talked about how it's on a residential street with only one way out. KCE, since you sell your energy to ERCOT, a benefit to the state at large, you could literally put this project close to any substation in the entire state and achieve the same goal. So why do you need to be here? We don't care about the brownouts. It's not worth it to us. Your website states that you pride yourself on being a good neighbor. Key capture, you cannot pride yourself on being a good neighbor in Kendall County because your giant hot battery project is not the vision we have for our community, nor the heritage we have worked hard to preserve for our children. My concluding questions, number 1 is to Commissioner's Court. I would ask, if it has not been done so already, that a copy of Key Capture Energy's lease agreement with the landowner be secured before any vote on the tax abatement takes place. How can we be certain there is not a contingency in the lease agreement that could be unfavorable with the tax abatement they seek? And then Key Capture. We've already asked if the deal will be off if no tax abatement is granted. Guess you won't answer that. But finally, what other locations are you scouting for your industrial project? Good news, Texas is really big. I'm confident a better option is out there.
The only thing I did want to clarify on that is on the cooling technologies that are used. The 2 types out there are the air cooling, which is your standard HVAC systems, and then the liquid cooling. We actually do at our Texas 1921, Texas 13, and then 10 and 15 that we're building have liquid cooled systems, and what they're actually using when it says liquid cooled is a ethylene glycol coolant that is recirculated. So it's not that it's
in a freeze.
Water.
My name is Fred Collins. I'm currently the president of the Kendall County, or the Comfort Water District. And my main concern about all of this has been the thing about any chance whatsoever, and would y'all write a guarantee to the water district and to the county that you will not contaminate our water? Because we fight this battle every day, every week, every moment of the day, we have to fight this battle about water availability. And so that's my big concern about you all. I think that most of the time that these things have already been decided in the back room before you ever come out here to talk to us. But that's my concern. Can you or will you provide some type of multi-million, maybe $1 billion worth of guarantee that you won't contaminate our water? Yeah. Well, I would like for you to do that. I think that visiting with the Water District Board would have some effect if you could guarantee that you would not foul our water and that we would have means of have money to get water from someplace else if you contaminate ours. Because if you can't contaminate anything out there and it runs downhill, the next place is Waring, then Sisterdale, and on down to Canyon Lake, and pretty soon we got no fish in the lake maybe. We just don't know. The other problem I have with lithium is Uncle Joe and China, because China is the one that produces the lithium. About 70% of it is what I understand. And I am 100% totally against Uncle Joe and his electrical baloney. On the other side of that, I didn't hear anything in here except for the school district that we benefit from. Not one thing except the school district. $5,000 to the Boys and Girls Club, You know that the Passing Home Shop, if we sell used clothing, and in a year's time, we do $65,000 in scholarships. So when you talk about millions and billions and whatever it's going to cost you, and $5,000 to the Boys and Girls Club, it makes no difference to me. Now, the fire department is the ones that's going to be the first ones out there. Are you going to pay for all of their equipment that they're going to need? Are you going to pay for their extra schooling that they're going to have? I mean, there are a lot of things that we don't understand that you're trying to do. And I'm sure every one of you are very good people, very honest people. But at the same time, we're the ones that live here. We don't live in New Jersey. And we don't live with Uncle Joe.
So, we do provide training to the fire department, pre-development, in the pre-development stage, during development and construction, and then also offer an annual training, after the project is built. And that was the question that I remembered.
Actually, perfect timing, because since it's a volunteer fire department, how much are you paying them for their time?
How much are they paying them for their time?
It's a volunteer fire department. If you're providing them the training, how much are you going to pay them for their time to be with you for your business project?
Thank you for bringing that up.
Actually, that's going to be the way I.
Hi, my name is Betty Murphy, and if there's one thing I'm concerned about, in Comfort, Texas, it's water. I want to know, have you already applied for a permit to drill a well? Are you going to be drilling a well out there? Are you bringing in water from somewhere else?
No, we're not drilling a well out there, and this project does not use water on a regular basis, so we're not going to be.
What are you going to do with the rain that comes down and washes off of it and goes into Flat Rock? Flat Rock Creek is a half a mile from the Guadalupe River. And that's it on down there. So there's no way you can say that none of it will go into Flat Rock Creek. It's less than a block away from where you're going to build.
So we develop a stormwater prevention plan with the state, and then we also have containment facilities built around, like with a concrete berm built around our transformers and our batteries, and then also detention ponds that are able to hold water as well.
I do not think that is adequate to protect the water in Kendall County. Anybody here in this county who wants to drill a well has to get a permit. I do not think we should take any chances with any water runoff. It's wrong. It's morally wrong to destroy the water for the rest of our county.
Yeah, I got two things. Number one, she got part of the answer about the water. So you're not gonna have a well, you're not gonna have any source of water. You guys say you don't need it. I didn't need it, but the Kendall County, I just built a 6,000-foot warehouse, and I had to put in a tank to hold 35,000 gallons of water just in case the fire department needed it. So I don't think you guys should get off scot-free for not having a source on site just in case. I mean, mine was just a 6,000-foot warehouse. I don't know what they want you to do that, but I would challenge the fire marshal to come up with a plan for you guys to have. By the way, I put in a 66,000-gallon tank, so I'd have some extra. And that tank right now runs 2 commodes and 2 sinks. Now, part 2 of my question is the man behind me said, make it short and sweet. It's all about our county commissioners. And it got me to thinking, you guys kind of tried to fast track this thing without any of us knowing about it. I'd like to know the level of agreement that Key Capture has with the county right now. What's the level of agreement, contracts, anything?
So this was addressed by a gentleman in the back as well. There are no agreements.
Right.
All this is an opportunity for the public to hear why they're requesting an abatement. The county has an abatement process where a form is filed with a county judge. Once it's presented to me, I must present it to Commissioner's Court. I have no discretion not to. So what happened when the reinvestment zone was proposed on the agenda, that's because I was presented with the abatement request. So If this reappears on our agenda for the reinvestment zone, the court can either vote to pass it on to the final stage where we grant the abatement request, or it can be stopped in its tracks at that stage with a no vote. If we don't get past the reinvestment zone, this is over, and then it's them left to decide whether they want to continue this project in the county. But I can assure you, this court, your commissioner's court, and I pride myself on being transparent and doing our homework. That's why we came here today, all the way to Comfort, to we normally sit in Kendall County, in Birdie, and so.
Yeah, we know that.
We know that.
We're kind of the northern birds, you know?
Yeah, I know. But we can't set something out here so we could get as many citizens as we could at a time that's convenient to you after your workday to hear directly from the horse's mouth. And so we too could get educated on what is important to you out here, because like, not all of us live out in Comfort. And so hearing what matters most to you is what matters to your court. And I've heard you loud and clear today. So I want you to know that there is no deal. That's why.
Point of clarification. Okay, you don't give them the abatement, but they can still circle back and ask for all this construction to be made and done and permitted or whatever the hell it is without that though. So it's still not dead, even if you guys say no to that.
Correct. All that your court has control over is whether they get an abatement. They can still come to this county and invest, but remember, your Austin representatives and senators are the ones who control what authorities your local government has. And right now, we don't have many controls over. I think someone's trying to shut me down. Yeah, we don't have as many controls as we would like over development in the county. And so our hands are tied. We do what we can, and the one thing that we do have control over is abatements. So, does that answer? No, this is not a regularly called session. Probably if the request comes back to my desk, it'll come up in one of the next courts. We meet the second and fourth Mondays of the month, but the agenda will be put out. I'm sure Commissioner Carpenter will get it out to y'all so you can hear whether we approve the reinvestment zone. So remember, there's two steps. If we approve the reinvestment zone, then it moves to the formal request of whether we approve the abatement.
No and no.
I've heard no and no, so thank you. Did that answer your questions? Okay, thank you.
Judge, nothing against you, but I'll have to tell you something. We get damn tired of being.
Hello, I'm Timmy Grice. I'm a long-term resident on Flat Rock Creek Road. I was born and raised in this town. My concerns is, why aren't you going to have people watching this plant on site 24/7? How come you're not going to do that? Give me an answer. I've got other questions too.
Well, the answer is because those batteries are designed to be monitored and controlled remotely. So as Robert mentioned,
We don't understand you.
you want me to repeat? Or is my accent that
It's
problem?
not real.
Okay, I can repeat. Yeah, okay. So all batteries are designed to be monitored and controlled remotely. That is why we work with control centers that monitor, as Robert was mentioned, 24/7. So every 5 to 7 seconds, we receive signals that can be digital and can be analog. We have alerts, and we are in control of our plant 24 hours, 7 days a week. If an emergency happens, we only need to click one button to turn off our batteries, turn off the power. And then we will dispatch our personnel to the site. So they are monitored, controlled 24/7.
Okay, here's my concern. I don't know if anybody remembers when the Oasis pipeline went in, the Enron pipeline. They came across our place and condemned us. This thing was high-tech at its time in 1972. They didn't have to monitor this thing, so they said. One day, the gas stopped coming, and their whole compressor station in Junction, Texas burned to the ground. Then they finally hired people to put out there to monitor the gauges. So you're depending on technology that doesn't have any human intervention at all on site. That is dangerous.
Well, if there is any disconnect, if there is any loss of communication, we receive an alert and we dispatch somebody immediately.
Yeah, but they're 4 hours away. You need somebody on site all the time, 24/7, to watch this mess. Because the technology is not gonna, technology fails. It has always failed. You can't depend on it. And what's gonna happen if you lose electricity at this site? You've gotta have retail electric suppliers like Central Texas Electric has to run all of your retail type electric. You don't depend on that plant. You have backup generators or not?
Generators. We
Okay.
are going to have that.
Is that going to run the cooling system? Is that going to run the heating system? What happens if we drop down to 5 degrees and you lose cooling on these things?
But look, at the end of the day, if our site lost power, ERCOT will redirect your electricity through another company.
No, I'm talking your power. The power that supplies the cooling and the heating to your containers to keep these batteries at the right temperature. And I don't know why you didn't go lead acid, because that thing's last 40 years.
So just as an answer to that, the auxiliary power systems, there are 2 different ways that get put in. In some cases, they're coming off of the distribution utility. Sometimes they're coming directly out of the substation, where we are paying for that electricity still. But if we lose power and the system shuts down, then the batteries are not generating additional heat at that time. They generate the heat by taking power in and discharging power. It's just like charging and discharging any renewable or rechargeable battery. So when you shut it down, it's not generating that heat any longer at that point.
Okay. Another thing is stormwater prevention, pollution prevention permit. Everybody on that site that's working better know what that thing is, because that'll be a violation. Every worker, every concrete worker, everybody tying rebar has to know where it is, and I will ask them. And I will train these people how to ask them. I've written many stormwater pollution prevention plans. And we can make your life tough. And if it rains, we're going to go check your filter fittings. Make sure that's, because you've got to check it within, I don't know how many, I don't remember how many hours, but you've got to check the apparatuses once a week. And I see these jobs out there, nobody's checking them. That seems to be the typical thing. I work for a company, we check them, we got rain gauges on site, but that's something else. And then, what if there's a damn old landfill under your place? How are you going to know that?
Yeah, so we've done a bunch of environmental studies on the site already, including geotechnical reports. So looking at the soil and what's underneath of it, we've not identified any issues on site.
And what about historical studies?
We've also done a historical study as well.
You've got approval from the Texas State Historical Commission?
We're not in that stage of the process yet, but we've
Well, you want to
identified that there are no remains or historical items on our site.
Yeah, but there was a landfill out there somewhere at one time. Yeah, you remember it. Okay, I've had enough.
Thank you so much.
Can you guys hear me? I hate mics, so I am Harmony Matter. I want to see the hands of our commissioners. Judge, I know you. Where else? No, raise them high. Raise them high. I really don't know. All right, thank you. So a lot of these questions are personal, and they're for your guys' reflection. I'm Harmony Matter. People who've been here a while know me as Pepper, and they know my 90-year-old grandmother, Annie. I want to know, because we live on the other side of your plant, on a dead-end road. What is the evacuation route for us? Because as far as I know, it's through Jimmy's place. And I want to know if the county is going to enforce eminent domain to pave a road through Jimmy Drice's ranch.
We would develop that emergency response plan with the fire department and figure out a location to get, or a way to get everybody safe.
So Jimmy, they're coming through your ranch. All right, thank you. I also want to know, when you guys have an incident, and anyone on our side, including my 90-year-old grandmother, has an accident, and emergency services cannot get to her because it's going to take a long time to get that road on Jimmy's ranch because he's going to fight. Who's going to replace the life that gets lost? That's what the commissioners need to consider. I want to know too, 9/11 firefighters, how many of them are sick and dead because the carcinogens leached into the air? You guys are not filtering. you're burning, it's releasing into the air. Our firefighters, what are you doing for their long-term health and care? They are volunteers. Are you providing their families with life insurance 40, 30 years down the road? What protective gear are you giving to our volunteer firefighters?
Good evening, my name is Carrie Spolkowski. I grew up here. Okay. I have two questions. One is, can you please go back to the Texas map that shows all of the plants that you have? How many of those plants were given an abatement for that area? A majority, more than 50% of those, and of those you built anyway?
There are a few projects that are able to pencil.
And how many were actually moved or canceled because you were not able to receive the abatement? And my second question is, I have a brother that lives in Pflugerville, and he said one of the largest issues that they have, and they live on the outskirts of Austin, is light pollution. How many square miles are we going to lose of our beautiful dark sky due to light pollution? How many square miles are we going to lose of our dark skies?
So there are specific lights that can be designed that meet the dark sky permit requirements. And we would be designing the substation of the entire best area. If it's part of the permitting process, that we'll investigate, yes. And we have been doing it on other projects as well.
And then also just to note, this is 3 to 4 acres of development, so we would look at having those specific darks.
What do you need lights for anyway? If nobody's there, what do you need lights for there? If nobody's there, why do you need lights?
Safety.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to why we install lights at all is typically around safety concerns. You may have a security light in place. The sites would typically have camera monitoring going on as well. But we have where there's been a need to install the lights such that they are motion detect based, so that if there's nobody out there, there isn't any lights. But OSHA actually requires, if you have someone come out to site, that there's adequate lighting for them to be able to see and travel safely.
It's OSHA standards.
I want to know how this got this far before we ever heard about it, and who's responsible for that being the. And if it's our county commissioners who, did this and allowed this to get this far, then maybe we need to find out who they are and when they come up for votes and put other people in. Right, and if they're the ones that are, letting us know now, that's great, and I really appreciate it. I think this meeting is a good thing, and hopefully will maybe bend some of their views a little bit. But it has gotten this far. The lease is signed. The lease has been signed for 3 years, so it's been going on for 3 or 4 years now with planning and development, site development and permitting processes and all that kind of stuff that have been going on. So
all of that's not controlled by the government. That has nothing to do with it. The Bearmans signed their lease with these people, and there's not a darn
and that's
thing
them.
anybody can do.
Yeah. Okay. So so now we need to work with the county commissioners.
Stuff like that is when we can sign.
Okay, so we keep doing that. The other thing I wanted to say is that I've been a veterinarian for 40 years. Ethylene glycol, if they decide to use that as a coolant, that's antifreeze. 1 or 2 laps is enough to kill a dog. If that stuff gets into our water or around the wildlife, the cows, the grass that grows through, the water downstream that everybody's using into our wells, it's going to be toxic and we won't be able to use it at all. So a barrier wall around the outside is fine, but all the gravel that runs through, that's going to be a problem. And it doesn't take but a couple of drops before it's toxic. And not just toxic, but fatal.
One thing, I don't know if everyone heard the answer. The first time the Commissioners Court heard of this project was when the abatement request came to us. We had nothing to do with the lease agreements between the landowner.
You said there were 2 votes coming up. The second was the abatement. What was the first one?
Correct. No, the first is the request for a reinvestment zone.
Okay, so did you agree to a reinvestment zone? Or
No,
that's-
ma'am.
that's still what's
It was on our agenda and we tabled it so that we could come out into the community to allow key capture to hear your concerns.
Thank you.
And so that was the process.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Yep.
I'm Spencer Carlton. Relatively new to the community. We've had a ranch here for roughly or almost 30 years. So I know you guys, there are a lot of people here that are from here, 5, 6, 7 generations.
Can't hear you closer. Hold the mic up.
Okay. Okay, couple thoughts. We've danced around a number of issues. We've gotten the purified or sanitized version. Let's think through how these things happen, right? We have a lithium-ion battery of some sort. We don't even know the chemistry yet. Dr. Bard would suggest lithium-ion batteries are a material of science. It really matters what the other material is. Okay, so having said that, let's assume it's raining. This thing, you might have gotten an environmental study of phase 1 and phase 2, but the fact of the matter is, you're on limestone, very porous. Concrete, by the way, is porous. It's not going to hold whatever it is that you think it's going to hold. It won't. It's porous. I know that because I tried to buy a business, and they wouldn't let me because the 4 feet of concrete had been saturated with a lubricant. And it happened to be an older lubricant and had some toxic chemicals in it. Back to the issue of chemistry. You guys don't even know, the Commissioner's Court should darn well know what the chemistry is. Why you guys are even considering it and you don't know, I think that's a problem.
Apologies, it's lithium-ion battery.
No, lithium-ion is the base. It's all the other chemistry with it. So it's not just lithium-ion, it's a bunch of other stuff, including the coolant. Okay? So when these things, I've been in this line long enough, I've done a great amount of research. Do your research. This stuff is not good. You can't guarantee anything. By the way, I have experience with SCADA systems. You can't guarantee communication in, you can't guarantee communication out. So to say that you can control it, you don't know that, you think it. And that's the problem. These people have to live with whatever mess you create. This will be a huge, super fun cleanup site. And what you're going to end up having to do is dig through limestone to try to find every drop of whatever God's name is released when these things burn. The problem is the Guadalupe River, all these rivers flow through San Marcos as well. So it's not like we're just the people impacted, burning are impacted. It's people all over the state that would be impacted. I'm not a fan of solar or wind power. And the reason is because you've got to build these stinking battery plants because it's so inefficient and so unreliable that they've got to go do this. I think you owe these people a heck of a lot more than you're giving them. And by the way, a 30% tax or abatement from the feds is going to be enough for these guys to do this. So the Commissioner's Court's irrelevant. It's all the other economics of the federal tax legislation. And don't forget how that happened. At any rate, I'm disappointed. I just found out about this. That's awful. I'm a busy guy. I've got other things that I've got going. And to find out that you guys dumped it on the Commissioner's Court within the 2-week window, that's the reason you haven't had any pushback in these towns. Nobody can rally the troops fast enough. You ought to be ashamed of it. That's not right. You owe this community more. One more issue. No, hang on. You've got 8 acres that you're leasing. You're only using 3. Try not to tell us that you're not going to use the rest of the 5 for more batteries.
Alex Rudd, I'm back. Thank you. I'm just going to try to be quick. I have more concerns now than ever after listening to the same questions come up. Like I said, when you start getting into third-party monitoring and tertiary manufacturing, there's more chance of error. And the same arguments go. You must acknowledge the risk to the community. We cannot rest assured that nothing will happen, even if it's a small chance. The county deserves the opportunity to have a development plan in place. And that includes being able to set regulations that would probably, in all logic, exclude this site because it's simply unsafe. Going back to water, I question how well Key Capture Energy knows this area. You mentioned that there would be no water contamination. This site is in a floodplain next to the Guadalupe with tributaries, karst, groundwater recharge features, and feeding a massive reservoir canyon lake. We get exceptional weather extremes, severe drought followed by monsoons. We can get 2 feet of rain in a weekend. Your floodplain, your flood management will very likely be insufficient and will be breached. And there's no guarantee that you can protect our water quality. And water is still an issue. Even though this site, you say it will not use water on a regular basis, if you need water, you're going to need a massive amount, potentially. You have to be prepared. Again, I contacted the fire department in Angleton. We had a long conversation. They had to put a reliable, pressurized fire hydrant on site dedicated to one thing, blowing smoke with a fire hose, several if needed. If you can't do that, then this facility, another reason it doesn't belong here. There's a history of manufacturing recalls. We need a track record on top of this. And the county commissioners and the town, we need a track record. This should not be a private conversation between this company and the fire marshal, designing the plans, deciding on the battery, giving the specifics of the fire suppression system. This is a sophisticated community, and we've become very aware. And this is also a message to people who are here from Austin. This is a prime example of communities under siege with no control over their destiny, forced to accept projects without having the right to say, wait a minute, this isn't quite right for us, let's take a pause. And the control has been ripped away. So I ask our representatives who are here in Austin to make note. This is not a happy community, and I think we mirror many others across the state who are very frustrated. Thank you.
My name is Rex Road. I'm the Kendall County surveyor. Is Kendall County requiring you to plat this site?
No, sir.
I have an email from RES Group asking me to do a subdivision plat for this site.
Not be us. We're not doing subdivision.
It says TX26 on the email. I can show it to you.
You can communicate with us and we can evaluate that because our council didn't inform that we needed to do that. So if we are missing something.
In Kendall County, you cannot plat anything less than 10 acres.
Okay. We will follow any rules and regulations.
So you'd have to ask for a variance. That would fall on Commissioner's Court.
We will follow any rule and regulation. So if that is what we need.
We're talking about you not having, not you have.
No, what I'm saying is.
The commissioners, all the commissioners here. If you have to plat the site, you have to have a variance.
It sounds like there might be a miscommunication. Res is one of our contractors, and we'd be happy to chat with you about what this is because we have not submitted a request for a plat as our company. So,
Development of this type would require a plat in Kendall County.
We will love to work with you. We will say again, but we were not informed about that.
Okay. Well,
Thank you for
the
bringing that up.
commissioners now have that on their plate to deal with.
We will work with them. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor, Kevin Lammers. It's my understanding this has been leased for 3 years. Is that correct? You had it under lease contract for 3 years? Where were we? 4 years? Or were we?
2020.
Do you deal with the Bernie Kendall County Development Board and
yes,
you do? Okay.
we have not yet, but we will the project because this project is in early stages.
For how
We
long?
haven't communicated them yet
I
because
never would have
it's
found it.
Apologies, we have not communicated.
But you've leased the ground for 4 years, knowing, and you're just now gonna go talk to them, or?
It's a multi-year development process that takes.
Oh, we understand all that. Why wasn't it communicated to this town, this city, village incorporation helps this stuff get away from these people. Just a thought. So you have been in touch with them, or you haven't been, or so they know nothing about this. That's what you're saying?
That will typically come on later in the development process. Since we're still early in this project stage, we have not met with them yet. We would typically start talking to them 6 months out prior to construction or before, and we're nowhere near that.
And that falls back on us as citizens and people who live in the county. Bernie's right around here. We need to get more involved with who's coming knocking on our doors, buying this, leasing this. And once again, your 20-year lease on that property, at the end of that 20 years, if you don't have new batteries and whatever, you just throw the keys and walk away.
No, sir. We have a full development or a decommissioning plan that we will be restoring the land to its original condition.
I'll be banking
above
on
and
that.
below.
Originally, I come from Illinois, land of strip mines. It took decades for them to get to reclaim all that. Decades. And those companies made a bunch of money, moved on. You'll make a bunch of money, and you'll move on. People, we need to wake up and get involved.
Hello, I'm Charles. Sorry. So, I want to apologize first off for what I'm wearing. The babysitter showed up late. I watched a lot of this on Facebook tonight, and a lot of the questions I wanted to ask have already been asked. I just have a few simple ones. Key Capture, major shareholder, is SK Energy, which is a South Korean company. Are you guys aware of the massive lawsuits for violation of air quality standards? Are you guys aware of the lawsuits for fixed bidding? Are you guys aware of the $236 million SK paid out in 2015? Are you guys aware? Hold on, let me pull them up. I got a list of them. But SK Energy Americas will pay $393,000 in penalties for violating air quality regulations. All of this I posted on every single Comfort site, by the way. At the close of 2014, the company had 2015 deficits that it failed to match with credits of its annual report. Let's go to it. Korean oil firm faces greenwashing claims over carbon offset ads. Basically, they lied. That was 82 million. Let's see, here's one out of California. Oh, by the way, several towns have pushed these guys out. Please do your research. Like, it's really easy. Google's an amazing thing. Freaking bids, here we go. South Korea-based company, SK Energy Company Limited. And again, I know, who you guys are. I'm nothing against anybody personally, but, let's face it, you guys don't care about comfort. Neither does a South Korean company. And they agreed to pay $82 million in criminal fees for their involvement in a decade-long bid rigging conspiracy. So my question to y'all is, do y'all really, first off, were you expecting this? Probably not. Y'all probably chose this place because it's unincorporated, off the beaten path, and you didn't think you were going to get this kind of blowback. Y'all don't know comfort. I apologize, but I don't really. My biggest thing is everything I've heard, and one of the questions earlier was, what would you do with your fire safety equipment? And what would you do if there were a fire? And someone mentioned there was one small one in Arizona. So how the hell do you know what your equipment's going to do if there's been nothing to test it? How do y'all know what's going to happen? Like, how long has this company been doing this? Like, it can't be that long. So just like when you buy a new car comes out, there's going to be a few years where you're going to have issues. They're working the kinks out and the bugs out. You've got a lot of folks here that care about this community. And I, for one, I just don't want to see this in Comfort. And I don't trust a company that lies, that commits fraud, that commits theft, that rigs bids and lines people's pockets who really don't need it and don't care about our community. So,
my name is Brian. Thanks for coming. Welcome to Comfort. So I'll try to be brief. I direct this question to the security person. I forget your name, sorry. Me? Brian. Same name. Oh, easy. So Brian, it sounds like the center is insecure. So somebody could hack into the SCADA system and could easily, for example, overcharge all the batteries and cause a massive compromise of the whole system. don't know if I know that answer as far as cybersecurity.
That is not possible because it's not possible because we are designed our site to provide no more than 100 megawatts to the grid. So we don't even have the capability to increase that. So even if there is a cap, we cannot provide more than 100 megawatts. We cannot provide that risk.
That's not the point. The point is somebody can hack into it and cause it to overheat and to have a fire. And he's suggesting that that's the issue, not that you wouldn't be able to provide.
It's a computer will happen. Look at our vote.
Well, but I'm addressing a scenario where hacker hacks in, compromises the SCADA system. The lithium batteries tend to, if they overheat, if they overcharge, then they overheat, and then you have fires.
They shut down when that happened.
Not if a hacker has hacked in and disrupted your security systems. So I'm just saying that the scenarios beyond just one container need to be considered. What if Joe Blow gets a bulldozer and plows through the systems? And in other words, it compromises many containers. So there are scenarios that it could be more catastrophic than one container.
Okay, I'm just going to start. My name is Cindy, and in real estate, so I look at contracts all day long, and my head just keeps going back to this mystery contract. I think it was done very sneakily. Shame on this family that rented this. And I feel sorry for you guys in a way, because the big wigs, the big corporate people should be here. They sent you guys the worker bees, and they should be here to be answering these questions. Okay, on this contract, on every contract, there is a default clause. Have any of you seen the copy of the contract? Okay, do you have a copy with you tonight?
Not with me tonight, but it is in the public record.
Do you have it here in Comfort, Texas?
I do not have a physical copy with me, but it is in the Comfort County, or Kendall County Courthouse.
Okay, so the lease, so if it's in the county courthouse, then now it's public information. Okay, what is the default paragraph if, after you've heard all of this, if Key Capture decides to default and terminate that contract?
That language is written in the lease. I'm not an expert on it, but it's in there.
Do you know what it is?
No.
It's going to cost you a lot of money to default. So nobody knows what that, after hearing all of this, if Key Capture decided to default, you certainly have the money to pay the Biermans for defaulting on tract. So we can go to the Kendall County Courthouse and get a copy of this?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Is there anyone you can call tonight or in the morning to see what is it going to cost you? And not you guys. You know, the rich people with KCE, what's it going to cost them if you decide after tonight to default on this contract?
We don't know.
Okay, all right, so you don't know, but we can get a copy of it, right, in the county?
Yes, ma'am. I'd be happy to.
Okay, has that ever happened before? Do you know?
We've not defaulted on our leases, no.
Mm-hmm.
What about the other way?
Is the lease renewed every year?
No, ma'am, it's a 20-year lease. It's either 2019 or 2020. I can't
It's
remember. off the top of
2020,
my
it's
head.
December 2020,
December
and yeah,
2020.
y'all amended
Yeah.
it January the 18th of this year.
All right. Well, we can all get a copy of that from the courthouse.
I just want to say that everybody in here, this is a pretty well tight-knit community. I'm a sixth-generation Texan. We are letting you know there will be no reinvestment, there will be no abatement. So you need to go back and figure out what you're going to do, because everybody in this room is already letting you know. We're trying to be as polite as we can and letting you know. And if you want to keep coming forward, we're going to be here ready to fight. We're going to go to lawyers. We're going to do whatever we have to do. Some of us, I know I did. We got on the phone. I mean, contact with all our commissioners, our state representatives. All these people are aware of what's going on. You came in here, they've asked you why, and I know why. You came into an unincorporated little small town, and it's right across the road from the LCRA. That's wonderful. And you thought we weren't going to stand up and voice our opinions and fight back. I'm telling you now, look around the room. We've had quite a few leave because they're tired. But we are here, and we're here to stay, and we're going to fight you.
Hey guys, I'm Tommy Titzworth Jr. I always want to see two sides. So these guys have not had anybody speak for them. So would their supporters come up? Please, you better back up, Chris. We have an iceberg, we call it comfort. It's been rammed into a ship. There's a big hole in their hull. Did y'all bring a life raft? Because y'all are gonna need it, it's gonna go down.
I want to say thank you guys for coming. I do have a few questions. This is my community. My kids are in school, at this school, at the high school. We've been through elementary, middle, high school. I'm not going to give you an abatement if it comes to back to our court. That will be something I'll stand firm on. Honestly, you don't need an abatement. You guys have enough money. I heard someone, and I don't know if this is factual, but y'all are looking at the trillions is what your goal is for your business. I'm a business owner. I built multiple buildings in this county. Not one time did I ever receive any abatement from the county. In fact, the rules and regulations have gotten worse and worse as I've been in practice in this community. You're telling me that there's no water at all being used. This has been something you've repetitiously said. You're not using water to cool one of these containers. We have a container on our ranch. That thing gets hotter than hell. You're saying that you're not going to use water at least to try to keep it cooler?
Sorry, the batteries are kept cool by...
No, during failure, I'm not talking about... And then we're talking about electrical fire. I know Keith Hallmark is gone, but we're talking about electrical fire, not just... You're not trying to keep a container, and I know you can't answer that. So have you already applied for interconnectivity application with LCRA? Have you already done that?
Yes, with ERCOT.
Okay. I have that question out to LCRA. I have yet to get that answer. So that answers to how far along you guys are with this process. So you've already leased the land, you've already applied for interconnectivity. How much does that cost, you know? Is that like $1 million for that connection, or is that the connection costs $1 million?
To connect to the LCRA grid, we don't have that.
And everybody in this room, including our commissioner's court, there's another company trying to come to Flat Rock Creek Road with the same idea. So this is not just the only company that's going to be coming before you guys. There's a whole other one trying to negotiate property right now.
You'll fight them too.
I know. And I think at a minimum, if you guys come, you should have at least 1 million gallons of water that's hauled in to this area and not used from our groundwater. We're already having problems with water issues. I don't have any other questions, and I'm not trying to be mean-spirited or ugly. I know you guys are just representing your company that you work for. I think this county has spoken loud, and we have shown up in numbers, and you guys, we know where you stand. I know where you stand. And I hear you loud and clear, and so if there's anything I can do, please reach out to me. I'm not going to vote for an abatement, so you don't have to worry about reaching out for me for an abatement question, but you can make sure the rest of our court knows where you stand. So thank you very much. That's my meeting.
Would you like to wrap it up? I feel like...
Can you provide us with your PowerPoint?
I believe we can, yes.
My name is Chad Carpenter. I'm Kendall County Commissioner, Precinct 4 of this area. Glad to represent you guys. I'm a little outspoken when I have something I believe in, so I'm not afraid to set my stand and be verbal.
What about the zoning that they talked about they had to get also?
The zoning? The reinvestment, so the reinvestment zone approached us. I had no idea. In fact, that's why we didn't vote for it. In order for there to be a tax abatement, as our judge has already said, it has to go through, the reinvestment zone has to be approved by the court. There's 5 of us, there's 4 commissioners, 1 county judge. I don't see that passing, but I only answer for myself, so I'm only one vote of 5.
And sir, that reinvestment zone request, the whole abatement process, it only comes to the judge's chambers. That's the way our process is set up, that the first stop is my office, and the commissioners never see it. The first opportunity they have is when I'm obligated to present it to the full court, because there's rules called the Texas Open Meetings Act, where we can't discuss things outside of court more than one person at a time, otherwise you violate the Open Meetings Act. And so the first chance for our court to fully hear about this is when it's on the agenda. And so the first moment our court heard it, we tabled it, because it was such an important issue to the community that that was the best course of action, to bring in key capture to speak to you in person.
So they're required to capture it.
The Commissioners Court requested,
But
they are not obligated to speak with you like this. They met our request to come out here, and they are here today trying to answer your questions. No, ma'am.
So when is the council meeting or the whatever it is that y'all are gonna have it out as a decision?
At this point,
And is it public?
It will be public, but right now, I guess the ball will be in their court to come back to me to say we would like to move forward with this abatement request, or to declare a reinvestment zone, and then I will put it on the agenda. It usually happens like on the Thursday before court, so I will tell Chad well in advance. Hopefully, it'll be.
Where do we go to watch for that?
The county website. I think Chad has a bulletin he sends out to the community. I'm sure he'll put it in there. I'm sure however you heard about this, it'll be on all the social media pages. But I guess we can ask you today, or when do you plan to come back for your abatement request? Because that may help the community know when to be expecting to come to court.
we are going to take this information.
So I can make this promise. I will not put it on the agenda for the month of February, to give everyone ample time to let key capture have time to go back to their headquarters to make their game plan, and to give y'all time, proper notice before the time the court considers it.
No, we can't hold this many people.
But we have Zoom, so you can watch via Zoom, and you can actually make public comments through Zoom. So if you want to voice your opinions there, again, we welcome it.
You have to register before the meeting, like other meetings?
Yes, ma'am. If you intend to speak, you need to file a speaking request form. It's online, and it comes directly to my assistant, and then it's presented to the court that day, and then we make sure during public comments that you have your 3 minutes.
Did I understand correctly that you can?
If we deny the reinvestment zone, that stops the abatement request. However, as
Who is we?
the commissioner's court. No, I don't, because we are a court of 5. We all have to make the decision as a group.
Is it unanimous or majority?
It's majority vote of the court decides whether something passes or not. However, there's 2 stages. The abatement request is one issue. If the court denies the abatement request, they can still develop in Kendall County. However, that's where Surveyor West Wexford's issue comes up of whether they need to plat and get a variance request from our court. That would be a whole separate issue for your commissioner's court to consider. So there's 2 different stages. Does that answer your question?
I'd like to say something in closing. And this will be, I hope, the last thing. I would just hope that, I feel for these people of who they've got to work for. I feel so gracious and happy to be a part of this community. We are a loving, caring family here. And if they keep coming down and wanting to stir up our little place, we could put this on CBS, NBC, MSC, all of those national things. That company isn't going to want to do that. But we will do that if it takes that to stop them, because I don't know any other way to stop them. But let them know, I hope they will go back to their boss, your boss, your boss, and your boss, and tell them, don't mess with these country folks. They are powerful, and they will get bigger power than this little company that you have. And then, you know, maybe y'all can retire and come and be with us. You'd be a lot happier than where you are. Put it on national news, and then that company, and tell them, we will do that. I assure you, we will put you on the national news.
Thanks again. Thanks again. All right, well, thank you all for coming. It is 8:28 on January 29th. This concludes the special town hall meeting of Kendall County Commissioners Court. And thank you to Keith Capture for coming to speak. And thank you to the citizens for coming out and letting your court know your thoughts.